The Earned Income Tax Credit is widely considered one of the most successful anti-poverty programs in the United States. It's essentially a federal tax refund for people who work but earn below a certain income threshold. Last year, more than 27 million individuals or families received the Earned Income Tax Credit, worth a total of $67 billion. In tonight's Signature segment, special correspondent Carla Murphy reports on the movement to expand the credit and on an experiment here in New York City to see just how that might work. This story is part of our series on poverty and opportunity in America called Chasing the Dream.
Donna Sugram works full-time as a prep cook for Manhattan Catering Company and earned $22,000 last year.
It's hard, especially in New York.
Yeah. She started filing out her tax forms in January with the help of a nonprofit organization that offers free assistance to low-income people. There's a big reason she's aiming to file early. As a single mother of a 10-year-old girl, Sugram anticipates a nearly $8,000 tax refund this year. A big part of that is from the Federal Earned Income Tax Credit, or EITC.
And what do you plan on doing with that money?
She's going to summer camp. So just for summer camp, that's about $3,000, and then for her daycare expenses.
So that money really makes a difference.
Yes, it does.
But the EITC doesn't help all low-income earners. It primarily benefits adults with children. So Carmelo Nieves is left out. He made about $20,000 last year working part-time as an aide for disabled adults.
It benefits the single parents with the kids, and I'm not against that. But you got to show some fairness and the sense of, all right, we got single adults that are working just as hard as them.
Gordon Berlin is trying to help people like Nieves. He's president of MDRC, a New York nonprofit group focused on improving policies and programs for the poor.
In the United States, we are mostly focused on poverty as a child problem. It's been very hard to build support for the working poor who don't have dependent children.
Berlin is an advocate for expanding the EITC to low-income workers without children.
I think we're facing a crisis in low-wage work, and it threatens the American dream. I know that sounds melodramatic, but I think the facts would bear me out.
For example, Berlin notes that a male who only graduates from high school earns 14% less today than he did in 1975, adjusted for inflation, according to the U.S. Census Bureau.
It's leading to lower employment rates, so we need to get work at the low end to pay again. And the Earned Income Tax Credit is one of the most promising vehicles for doing that.
Expanding the EITC has bipartisan support in Washington. This was Republican Paul Ryan more than a year before he was elected Speaker of the House of Representatives.
We should make sure that in this country it always pays to work. I would do that by increasing the Earned Income Tax Credit for childless workers.
President Obama reiterated his call for the same change in his State of the Union address last month.
And I'd welcome a serious discussion about strategies we can all support, like expanding tax cuts for low-income workers who don't have children.
Currently, to qualify for the EITC, a childless worker has to be at least 25 years old and earn below $15,000 a year, while a single parent with 3 kids can earn almost $48,000. And the maximum credit a childless adult can get is about $500, 1/12 of the more than $6,000 a single parent with 3 kids could receive. President Obama and Speaker Ryan have made similar proposals to double the existing credit, lower the eligibility age to 21, and increase the maximum income to about $18,000. That would make about 6 million more low-income workers eligible for the EITC. But it would come at a significant cost, at least $5.5 billion a year in new federal spending, according to the Office of Management and Budget. Questions about how to pay for an EITC expansion are one reason bipartisan efforts have stalled in Washington. But here in New York City, expanding the EITC for some single workers is already underway. It's a pilot project called Paycheck Plus, and here's how it works. The existing EITC for workers without dependent children is being supplemented. Participants who earn less than $30,000 a year are eligible for a bonus of up to $2,000, depending on how much they earned. Gordon Berlin's organization, MDRC, is running the 3-year demonstration project at Paycheck Plus. 3,000 New Yorkers are enrolled, along with a control group of workers not receiving the bonus.
There's a lot of uncertainty about whether singles and men would respond in the same way that fathers and mothers of dependent children have responded. We don't know what effect it might have on poverty or income or hardship, and we certainly don't know what the effects on employment and earnings will be.
The total cost of the project, including the bonuses, is about $12 million and is funded mostly by New York City with support from the Federal Department of Health and Human Services and private foundations. While Carmelo Nieves doesn't benefit from the federal EITC, he received about $1,500 from New York's Paycheck Plus last year.
I just put it away, like I said, rainy days, you never know, and just, paid a couple bills, but I'm single, so I don't have no kids or anything like that, so I said I put it away.
How hard has it been just to find a job that pays enough so that you could live here?
It's very hard. If you don't know nobody, that's gonna hurt. And sometimes just, your education background also hurts you too, because nobody wants to hire people that just have a high school diploma.
Are you part of Paycheck Plus?
I am.
You are. Can you sign right here?
Of course I could.
Alvin Martinez is another Paycheck Plus participant. He works as a transportation coordinator for a nonprofit organization that provides shelter and jobs for the homeless. At tax time last year, he says some extra money would have really helped him pay bills.
I had debts, I was hardly bringing anything to the table here because I was out without work prior to that job for about 6 months.
Filing his taxes as a single person with no dependents, Martinez was not eligible for the federal EITC. He is a father of 3 children, but none live with him. About 12% of Paycheck Plus participants are non-custodial parents like him. Martinez qualified for a Paycheck Plus bonus of nearly $500, but he didn't get to keep the money. Like the federal EITC, the bonus is subject to child support claims.
The check was intercepted and it went to the Child Support Enforcement Unit. I'm telling you, I smiled. I was really happy. I wasn't annoyed at all. It was fantastic. Something was getting paid in that direction.
And it wasn't hanging over your head anymore.
Exactly my point.
Researchers are studying whether the bonus improves things like paying child support or reduces run-ins with the criminal justice system, and whether the incentive encourages people who aren't working to find jobs.
I think EITC is very successful. I certainly support it, but its main effect is to increase earnings on the part of people who are already working.
Lawrence Mead is a professor at New York University and a visiting scholar at the American Enterprise Institute, a conservative think tank. His academic work helped inform the Welfare Reform Act in 1996, which set time limits on how long people could receive benefits and required recipients to work.
We tried work incentives in welfare for 20 or 30 years before the 90s, when we finally got serious about it requiring people to work. And that is the main reason they went to work. They were required to work.
Mead is skeptical that expanding the EITC to childless adults and non-custodial parents will be enough to encourage them to get jobs.
The evidence that I see is that the work incentive is helpful, but you also need staff people to say to those who are on welfare or who could benefit from EITC that they should go and do it. They need to be persuaded. They need to be shown that this is a good deal. That's what we did in welfare reform, and that's why it was successful. It was the combination of what I call help and hassle.
When it comes to raising incomes, the existing federal EITC has been broadly celebrated. In 2013, the credit boosted 6.2 million people over the poverty line. But administering one of the largest benefit programs through the tax code is not without flaws. The Internal Revenue Service concedes that as much as 27%, or roughly $18 billion a year, of EITC payments are issued improperly, mostly overclaims due to complex eligibility guidelines, misreported income, and errors by tax preparers. But at the same time, many low-income people are missing out on the EITC. Only 4 out of 5 eligible workers claim it, and increasing awareness has been a focus of the IRS.
If you worked and didn't make much money last year, find out about the Earned Income Tax Credit at irs.gov.
Paycheck Plus is expanding to Atlanta, where researchers will study its impact on a city with lower average incomes and a lower cost of living.
We're clear to go.
Here in New York, Alvin Martinez saw his income rise in 2015 to nearly $28,000. He'll still qualify for the Paycheck Plus bonuses tax season, but it will likely be only a few $100s.
I've done a lot of overtime this year, and I thank God for that. And I've never worked thinking, oh man, I might make too much money and Paycheck Plus, I might not get nothing, When I receive, I'm grateful for whatever. $2, fine,